Well, it's the final week of the LCS regular split for spring, with coverage brought to you by Alienware. It's the second day here, Saturday, as we are winding down the final matches. I'm joined right now by Zven to talk about C9's match against Dig. So, first off, were you guys a little nervous? I mean, Dig seems like they have consistently been a threat to all the other teams. So, I don't know if you guys were going into this like, oh, it's actually Dignitas and they're actually good. Not what we expected.
I mean, I wasn't really afraid of dignitas. I was more afraid of ourselves because we haven't been playing so well recently. I think the losses to TSM and TL were fine. Like they're good teams, right? And late game macro and the comps we're playing weren't our best, and it was their best. So we were a little bit uncomfortable, I guess, playing the team comp we played, like the control mage, Caitlyn kind of comps. Nothing we practiced that much, but we want to try it out. Not that it's an excuse for losing, right? But I was more afraid of our own form, given our game yesterday, mine specifically. And CLG, we didn't play very well. I didn't play very well either. Died in lane, right, which made the game really hard. But I think that because of beating CLG after the early game was over, I think that we had some team fights we could have won very easily, and that made me be a little scared. But I think Dignitas is a team that's worse than their score indicates, which is not an insult. It's just that they have shown poise, I guess, to win games that are really, really lost. Like against TSM last week, they were playing against TSM and they were down like 10k gold and they won somehow. I don't know how they found a victory from that position they were in, but they found it. And they've had a lot of games like that. But I think one thing we're good at is when we're ahead, we win. We almost never throw at advantages, like big ones, like really big ones when we're playing our comfort champs. Whereas Dignitas, I guess, finds wins from behind. We don't find that many wins behind, so I felt like today was going to be a free win. I don't know. Yeah, I made a mistake in lane, which kind of made me a little bit sad because I hate dying early game or dying in lane or making like personal mistakes. That dying in team fights is fine and stuff. Dying for a cause is fine, but dying like that is just sad because we were winning lane the whole time, right? And I was kind of one doing them while Phil was roaming. So the game was going really well for us, and I died, which made it kind of like it's hard to see positives when you make mistakes yourself. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Do you think that Dig will, based off of your assessment of them, right, which is that perhaps they are worse than their record shows, do you think that they're going to have a hard time in these best of five situations? Like, will the Dig hype train perhaps crash within the first couple of one or two matches that they play in playoffs?
I think it's cool that a team that I consider to be bottom tier before the season started is second place and contesting first until this match, right? I think that's really cool, but I think that they will not be better than C9, TL, or TSM in playoffs. I think they can beat One of Thieves, they can beat whoever else makes playoffs, whether that's IMT or I don't know who else is going to make playoffs at this point. So
It's locked in now. It's EG,
EG,
and
yeah.
then and then I think we said earlier it's C900T, TSM, TL, EG, and then Dignitas. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean they can beat everyone else. That's not C9, TL, and TSM. I think TSM and TL, given our scrims, those are teams we scrim the most unless we play them. So I think those are the best teams in the league besides us, and Dig will have a hard time beating one of those teams, but they can beat the others. Like EG, for example, is beatable. So and One of Thieves, right? They're in playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so One of Thieves as well. I think One of Thieves is having a lot of problems right now, and they're trying to band-aid it by changing mid laners to have them play the same champions. So they're having a lot of struggles right now, I think. And their scrims aren't looking much better either. So One of Thieves is looking to be one of the biggest teams in playoffs right now, unless they make some major improvements.
Yeah. Well, you referenced this a little bit in the beginning, but C9 hasn't been playing very well. A lot of people were like, "Oh, is it happening again?" So what has been causing it? Because some people also speculated that perhaps you guys were just experimenting with different styles of play once you'd locked playoffs and not really worrying as much about securing every single one of these wins.
Well, I will say that after we made playoffs and we were most likely going to be first anyways, we were totally fine with losing some games. But saying we lost because we experimented is like an excuse that everyone uses all the time when they play something they haven't played before. And I think we lost because of our play, not because of our champions. Although with that said, if we had played different champions, we'd probably won, right? It's like, sure, we didn't play Comfort, Crystal won, but if we played Comfort, we'd probably won. So it's like, yeah, you could say that as an excuse, but I think both games versus TL and TSM, we were ahead. We had a lead. We got, a good spot in the game, and then we just made a big mistake against TSM. We had one bad top fight and one bad hero fight, and that was it. I think the rest of the game was really good. Early game was almost perfect. We invaded the one that we planned, got the crabs. Jungle was really far ahead. Things were going well for us. So I think those those losses were not on champions at all. They were just on play. And against CLG, a lot of I died in lane, right? So that made the game really, really, really hard for everyone. And then I think we misplayed team fights when we had the moment. We killed Nautilus at Baron, went Baron, misplayed the team fight, and we could have won the game right there. So yeah, I think that it's not the same as last year because we identify our issues really quickly and work on them really quickly. So I feel really confident going playoffs, but our drafts are not our absolute best either. So I'm really fine with losing those games. I just want to make first place no matter what. So yeah.
Did you, before when you guys looked like you had first place in the bag, or at least you had a several game lead, did you feel really confident that you guys were ahead of the pack on everybody in terms of skill as well? Like, I don't know if before you're like, hey, I think pretty confidently we're going to MSI, and maybe now you're a little bit more concerned.
I'm still confident that we're the best team in the league. I mean, given our stage play and our scrims against the other two teams I consider good, TSM, TL, I think we're still better, and we have more flexibility. I like to believe. I think that TSM and TL rely a lot on the same champions, whereas we can play more. Obviously, we lost the week we played something else than our usual style, but I still think that we're in a good spot right now to win the LCS. So I have to play a little bit better. That I can agree with, but I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, after I talk to you, I'm going to interview Neo, and he's a player that's been receiving a lot of hype. I'm kind of curious what you think of him, especially having just played against him.
I think today he didn't do anything, but I don't think he could do anything either. I think he was put in a bad spot in draft. His matchup in lane is losing. His teammates are playing tanks with Kai'Sa, which is not good. He's playing mage mid, which is not good with Kai'Sa. So I pick Kai'Sa, but they don't draft a comp around Kai'Sa, which kind of like fucks him over. So I think that sucks for him. But I think he's been making some good plays, some good games. His Costa games were pretty decent against TSM. He was really behind in lane, but he came back and had I think 10 kills something at some point. So he had that one game with 17 kills as well against someone last week, EG or whatever. So
yeah,
I think in those games, Dignitas should be losing. I watched both the EG Dignitas game and the Dignitas versus TSM game, and I thought, wow, Dignitas is so screwed. They can't win this game. It's impossible. And they pull a rabbit out of the hat and win anyways. And I think Neo played pretty well in those games. I think Costa is a hard champ to play. So I can respect that. And I think that I used to think, whoa, this guy is really bad. Solo queue and stuff. And now I play against him and I see him in LCS and he seems pretty good. So it's nice that talent in NA isn't like a huge meme, right? So there's actually some good players, tactical as well. So Loss is obviously, but he's also good. So
right.
It's nice to see some talent from NA coming out and actually being somewhat humans, not every talent that comes out. It's like a 10th place team. So yeah.
Yes. It's nice to see sometimes we have some players that can do something.
It often happens that talent in NA comes in, they play in the worst team in the league, they go like Golden Guardians-esque with, Niall, for example, is going to have a hard time because his team is last place and maybe he isn't so bad, but people look at him and say like, talent in NA is so bad, haha. But, some Dignitas is full NA, right? And they have a lot of rookies, so it's nice to see them do well. Well, not rookies, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think Niles isn't that bad, or is that just an example you're saying?
He's an example of a player that will get looked at, and people think he's doomed and he will never be a pro player, but I don't think he's necessarily terrible. I think sometimes you just need time. I've seen a lot of players start their career by being really, really, really bad, and then they come back a year later and they're really, really good. Many players that are the best in their league or their region started out in bad teams by looking mediocre, so... I think it's not impossible.
Yeah.
I just hope.
Oh, go ahead.
I just hope being in a bad team doesn't mean you get stempled or marked as a bad player. Although I do think GGS don't have that many good players, for what it's worth. So it's a bad example, but.
Well, is there anything that you would like to say to any of the fans out there?
I know it looks a bit worrying right now with the 3 losses in a row, followed by a decent winning task, but I think we're still really good. Our scrims are going really well. We're playing a lot of different stuff, and we have a lot of strategies for playoffs that we have not shown yet, that we chose not to show today. So people can expect us to come out the gates in playoffs with a bang. And I can't wait for playoffs to start. Best of fives are a different beast, and I think we have players that are all good best fives. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think I know I played bad against CLG and today, but trust process, like I always say. I think this year our process is really good. So I'm very confident in playoffs.
Well, I'm excited as well to see. And by the time this interview comes out, however many tiebreakers will have occurred or whatever will have gone down, so people will know sort of what the bracket looks like. So thank you so much, Zven, for the interview. Really appreciate it. And for everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. Listen, if you're watching this, there is I think like a 10% chance. I think that's like my Canadian audience. Like 1 in 10 of you that are watching this right now are Canadian. And up until now, you were not able to get 10% off your order of an Alienware computer. And I have spent every single night since I inked the very first Alienware deal staring at my ceiling, where in my memory, like just, it doesn't actually exist in real life, but like my brain transposes a Canadian flag onto my ceiling as I'm staring at it 3:30 in the morning, wide awake, and in order to get this resolved and my ability to sleep, I got it. So you guys have a code now. So Travis 10 off. You can use it to save 10% off your order, just like us Americans down here to your south. I did this for you. Appreciate me.